All right. Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today and happy Thursday. Welcome to the webinar, How to Map Your Pinterest Strategy. We're so excited about what we've got in store today. We've got a lot of really incredible and valuable information, and I'm especially excited to have a Pinterest pro with us, and we'll all be learning how to get really strategic and efficient with our Pinterest sharing. Quick introductions. My name is Jilly Bedains. I'm the head of marketing here at ViralTag. My background is in digital media. I've worked with some small companies, small tech startups, and at a couple of the bigger tech companies, Google and AOL. So I've got a mix of experience. So happy to answer some questions later in the webinar. Feel free to jot down my email, and that's my Twitter handle. It's just Jilly at ViralTag, and that's the hashtag that we have for our webinar. So feel free to throw in any questions during the webinar into Twitter if you like, or social media with the hashtag ViralTagWebinar. You can also throw in questions into the question box here in the webinar. And definitely let me know if there are any technical issues, if anything comes up during the webinar that keeps you from seeing us or hearing us. Every once in a while that happens, and if you just let us know quickly, we can sort it out to make sure you don't miss anything. We'll also be sending out a recording of this webinar afterwards and the slides, so don't worry about taking too many notes, because we'll send you everything in case you missed anything. I'm very, very excited to introduce Anna Van Landingham, who is joining us today. She is a real-life Pinterest expert, and she shares her Pinterest tips on her website, pinterestpro.com. She specializes in Pinterest only, which makes her really unique, and she's been at it for 3 years. So she was actually a Pinterest expert before there were even Pinterest business accounts. So she really knows all the ins and outs of Pinterest, all the changes in the rules. She keeps up to date on everything. So she's just an incredible resource, and we're really, really excited to learn from her today. We're going to be packing in a lot of information. First, we'll just talk a little bit briefly about how you should think about your visual content strategy. We'll talk about figuring out your target audience and learning about them in order to make the best use of your strategy. And then I'm going to turn it over to Anna, and she's going to talk about how to really map your strategy on Pinterest and explains how to make your way around Pinterest. And then we'll talk a little bit about implementing that strategy, and we'll leave time for questions. Great. So ViralTag is a social media marketing platform focused on visual content. We're helping small businesses, startups, bloggers discover and create really quality visual content and then schedule it out in the future on social media. So why did we design an entire platform around visual content? Well, it's because we know the research shows that visual content is the best way to drive more engagement, more clicks, and ultimately more traffic and sales to your website. A piece of content with a visual receives 94% more clicks than a piece of content without a visual. And it's really the best way to create that lasting connection with your audience, and really create a sustainable customer. People remember 80% of what they see. That's compared to just 20% of what they read and 10% of what they hear. So visual content is really a really critical thing to put at the core of your social media marketing strategy if you want to be the most efficient. And the best place, obviously, to do that is by sharing to the main visual social media networks, which is why Pinterest is really central to our platform and, of course, the focus of this webinar today. So before you get started on Pinterest, just sharing, all the visual content you can find, you want to be really deliberate. So this is a perfect moment to sit back and just take a moment to think about what's your business objective. Maybe take a little bit of a look at where your business is today and think about where you want to go. Because if you want to create a strategy, to achieve a goal, you really have to know where that goal is, what you're trying to do. So really get specific, and think about, maybe you're just getting started and you're looking to acquire your first time customers, or maybe you want to grow your existing customer base. Maybe you're just more looking at um, building community around the customers that you have today and focus on loyalty. Decide what that is for you and write it down and stick to it, because knowing the answer to this is really going to help you decide what you need to focus on. Because, of course, really key to achieving a goal is knowing how to measure if you're making progress on that goal, and that's where metrics come in. So, depending on what your objective is, you're going to pay attention to different metrics. So if you're looking to acquire customers, you're really going to pay attention probably to that referral traffic and how many people are clicking on your links that you're sharing. If you're more interested in just building up retention or community, you might pay more attention to how your content is being shared on Pinterest or on that social media platform that you're using. So if you're or maybe you're looking at just building your brand and you're going to pay attention to that viral metrics like shares and repins. So decide what that means for you. You're going to be the most successful if you really focus on that, one thing specifically. Knowing the answer to this is also going to help you decide who you want to speak to, which is also really important, because you can't speak to everyone at the same time. You're going to be the most effective if you have a clear target audience in mind. So define that audience, and then just to really study their behavior on social media, and especially on Pinterest. Look at what they are sharing. What conversations are they having? What are their boards? What are their interests? Who are they following? What is their behavior? How often are they pinning new content? How many things are they pinning at a time? So try and learn as much as you can, and then that's going to help you figure out what you need to be sharing, what you should be talking about, and the style in which you should be sharing. With that in mind, once you've got all that decided, you can head over to Pinterest and get started. And now I'm going to turn it over to Anna to tell us what to do once we were on Pinterest getting started.
Hello, everyone. And that was a perfect intro, because that's one of the things that I emphasize to people is you have to know who your market is before you ever get started. And so whenever I first started looking at Pinterest and developing a consulting business about it, I realized that people needed to have a strategy. You need to know who your target market is, and then have a strategy of how to meet that target market on Pinterest. So as I studied it, I realized some things, and I developed a process that I refer to as mapping. And so when you look at this diagram that's there on the screen, you'll see there that really it covers all the things that we said we were going to talk about today. Because what you have to do is you have to make sure that the name of your pin file has keywords in it. A lot of people don't realize that even the name of a file counts in the search. And so I'm talking about images that you're going to upload onto the Pinterest account. And I tend to talk about Pinterest in that way, because my philosophy is that if you're doing this to try to drive traffic to your website, why would you pin other people's pins all the time and not do any of your own? Because all you're doing is driving traffic to their website. So whenever you're creating those images for Pinterest, make sure that you have the keywords in that. And that's what we'll talk about today, finding those keywords. The descriptions of the pins and the descriptions of the boards. So many people out there don't even write a description for the pin, and that's very important. And again, it needs to have those keywords. The name of your boards. Way back 3 years ago when I started, people would say, do these creative names. Well, I've learned that that's not necessarily what you need to do. And then even the name of your account, because all of this is leading the pathway to your website. And I use the analogy of taking a trip, because I found that people can relate to that. Now, of course, we're talking about pre-GPS here, okay? When we used to get out the maps and figure out our routes and so forth. And so what I say is that each one of these things along the way on this arrow here, these are your road signs that are helping you to know that you're taking the correct road. Well, what it also does is it lets potential consumers and clients find you. And so you want to be sure that you're putting the right words there. So let's take a look at Pinterest. And when you first log on to Pinterest, you will see on the next slide here, okay, you'll see up at the top, and if you've used Pinterest, you're familiar with this, you'll see the three little lines at the end of the Pinterest search bar. Well, if you click on the down arrow there, of course, you have your categories there. And I tell people, whenever they come to me as a client, before you make one board or a pin or anything, you need to do this research up front. If you're about to take a long trip, you would do the research up front. You wouldn't just get on the highway and go and hope you're going in the right direction. So that's what we're doing here. So this would be, you've just set up the account so you can get into Pinterest, and then you're starting to do the research. Okay. Now also keep in mind that just like if you're planning out a trip, some of you are old enough like me to remember when we used to do this, or we would go to AAA and get the triptychs, okay, that would tell us step by step what roads we were going to take and so forth, so that we could make sure that we found our way. Well, this is the same thing here. So you look at the categories, and when you're looking at the categories there, you are trying to figure out, okay, where does my business fit? So I make the analogy, going back to the road trip, of you're finding which interstate you need to take. And so just like if you were taking a road trip and you were supposed to go I-75 north and you took I-75 south, then when you get to Miami, you're going to be in trouble, okay? You're not going to know where you are. So the same thing is true here when you're looking at these categories. These are your interstates. So because Pinterest groups everything according to these categories. So you want to make sure that your boards are in the right category so that you can be found. Because think about it. If you are a travel business and you use the category of arts and crafts, then you're not going to be in the right group, just like not being on the right interstate for people to be able to find you. Okay? And so what I usually do is I suggest to clients that you click on every one of these categories just to see what's there, because you may be surprised at what you find. But let's take the travel industry. And as in the travel industry, you look and you see there is a category for travel, and that's like, oh yay, I don't even have to try to figure this one out. So you click on the category travel, and you notice at the top that there's several different groups up here. And back when I first started doing Pinterest, this was not there. You just had those main categories. And so Pinterest started doing this, and it just made life so much easier. Because looking at those groups at the top, what you can do is you can say, okay, those look really good. I could use those. These become your keywords. And you need to make sure that you write them down so that you have them for later reference. Now I'm looking at these here, and I see beach travel, family travel, outdoor travel, and so forth. Well, those could become the names of my boards. But let's say that I am a person that specializes in senior trips, okay? And so I look at all this and I think family travel is definitely not going to be something dealing with senior trips, because I know high school seniors don't want their family going with them. But I see beach travel and I think, I know high school seniors love to go to the beach on their senior trips. So I click on that one. And when I click on the beach travel, I see the categories here at the top. And I see the United States, Florida, sunrises. Okay, right here I'm like, I have hit pay dirt. These can become my road signs. So I could have boards that I name, like for sunrises, I could have a board named Best Sunrises in Florida, uh, best sunrises on California beaches. You see, I'm using these words to name my boards, and I also want to make sure that I use these words to write my descriptions. And that's why I keep emphasizing that you need to write these down, because then you have them. And I put them on a spreadsheet so that I can pull that up every time I go to create a pin and write a description, so that I make sure that I'm using those words, because these are my road signs. And if Pinterest has made these interest groups there at the top for travel, that tells me that there are a lot of people that are interested in that topic. Because going back to the analogy of a road map, think about it. On a road map, you're going to have the major roads labeled, but they're not going to label gravel roads and dirt roads. Well, on Pinterest, they're going to make these interest groups based on, what people tend to search for and words that people use. So if they've made these interest groups of a sunrise or Florida beaches, okay, then I know that there apparently are a lot of people on Pinterest that are interested in that. And if you look up at the top here, you'll see it has a number there, and you can't really see it here on the screen, but it's 88,500 followers. That tells me that 88,500 people are following the topic beach travel. I would say that would be a pretty good market to get in front of. So I'm going to make sure that I have a board named beach travel somehow, some way, and I might have beach travel in Florida, beach travel in California, beach travel in Mexico, or beach travel in the Caribbean. And I can think of all kinds of pins that I could create using that. And I'm going to be in front of, I know, at least 88,500 people, because they've expressed interest in that. But let's take a look at family travel. And because let's say that you're a travel agent, that you specialize in family vacations, that sort of thing. And so you click on family travel, and again, you have the topics at the top, and these can become your board names and your keywords. And you see there honeymoon places, Disney cruise lines. You could make boards with those exact names, because you know that these are Pinterest keywords, and you know it will help you to get found, and it will help you to be on the right pathway to make profits in your company. And for family travel at the top, there's 28,480 followers of that specific topic. Well, again, that's not a bad audience. How many of you have ever spoken in front of 28,480 people, okay, to tell about your product and to highlight it? Well, perfect. Here it is. So sometimes, though, let's say that I'm a travel agent, and I'll look at this and I go, none of this is really that great, because I'm the type of travel agent that I tend to cater to the outdoorsy kind of people. So I go back and I look at the categories, and I see an outdoor category, and I'm thinking, that might be good. So I click on the outdoor category, and I notice at the top that there's canoeing, hiking, camping, and I get all excited, because I'm like, okay, I have hit pay dirt. This is great, because I can make a board hiking the Appalachian Trail, hiking in the Midwest, hiking the national parks, and then I can have camping in the national parks, camping in the Northeast, you see? And so that will help me know what I need to name my boards and know what my keywords are. And I go back and I emphasize, be sure you're writing these down as you do the research, just like you would write the roads you're supposed to take down, so that you make sure that you don't get lost. And so, of course, we're thinking pre-GPS times. Now, let's take another industry like the housing industry. And with the housing industry, you look at the categories and you notice that there's really not a category there for, say, real estate or for construction or remodeling. And you're kind of looking around and you go, home decor. Well, that relates. So let me click on home decor and see what's there. And so I click on home decor and I see, Mediterranean decor, traditional English country decor. Oh, as a construction company, I specialize in building cottages for people. So English country decor, there could be some things there. So I click on that, and voila, when I click on that, I notice, wow, look at all the stuff there. There's English cottages, English cottage styles, stone cottages. I can see boards now already with those names on them. And so, I start writing those down, and I know that I've finally found some keywords that I can use for the names of my boards and to write my descriptions. And I start thinking about the types of pins that I can create that will attract attention to my images so that people will click on them. So you see, you have to put the correct road signs there. But let's say, after you look at this category, you go back to the categories and you click on architecture, because you think, well, architecture, that's got to do with the housing industry. And you'll notice there that at the top, there's remodels and restoration. Well, let's say that you're in the housing industry, and that's basically what you do. You do remodels for people, add on additions to their houses, that sort of thing. So you think about it and you go, wow, this is great. So you click on remodels and restoration. And when you get there, you've got to go, whoa, this is totally awesome, because now I have categories. And I can have boards named remodeling kitchens, remodeling bathrooms, and so forth. So you see, I'm not just trying to be cute and come up with a board name. I can use the example I used when I first started, horses in the house. Well, neither one of those are key words. But see, at that point in time, it was when people said, okay, be creative and that'll catch people's attention. Well, I learned very quickly after analyzing everything, hey, I need to look and see how Pinterest is categorizing things so that I know what words they're using for the robots to go out there and group things together. And that's why you'll hear people say that Pinterest is good for SEO, because the robots like these groups of information. So these are just a few examples of pinning your pathway to profitability. And you see, if you put the right road signs along the way with the name of your pin file, the board name, and the description of the pin, then at each step of the way, just like if you're taking I-75 to I-10 to I-65, you're going to get to the right place. If you use these words after doing your research to name your files of your images, to name your boards, and to write your descriptions of your boards, and even make sure that you have the name in your account, then people are going to find their way to your website, and then you have the potential to make them a client or a customer. Now, of course, the thing you need to remember is that just like with roads, they have to be maintained and travel on to be known. That's why Route 66 has become so famous. People traveled on it a lot. They liked it. And it's been maintained because it is so famous. So the same thing is true with your Pinterest account. And you have to be consistent in the pinning and repinning and finding followers. And that's why I like ViralTag so much, because it enables me to be consistent in my pinning and not put just a bunch of pins out there at one time. I can schedule them to go out at intervals. And so ViralTag has become my vehicle, so to speak, to take along this pathway to profitability.
Anna, thank you so much. That was really, really useful. I mean, amazing. It just really shows like what the opportunity is with Pinterest. There's so much there. There's so many people pinning in so many different categories. I think a lot of people don't realize what the variety of content is on Pinterest. So yeah, like Anna said, I think once you figured out where you fit in on Pinterest and you've built those pathways and figured out what categories are best for you, the important thing is to deliver on that kind of the promise that you've set up with your profile. So that's really where ViralTag comes in. We help people find content to post to continue to keep up that pattern. And then we have a scheduling tool so you can set out all your content to be posted out consistently over time without spending all day every day on Pinterest. So you can log into your dashboard, you can save photos from different pages on different websites, you can pull in feeds from your favorite blogs or websites that you like to share information from. You can search user generated content and other sources of content we have on our site. And you can also create some basic graphics with our Canva integration. And then you can schedule that all out over time and pay attention to how well that those images have done by looking at your recent posts, and we give you feedback on how each pin did, and then we can also tell you how that is how what sort of traffic that's causing on your website. So we can connect with Google Analytics and show you your referral traffic from Pinterest and other social media that you've connected.